What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to take you through my entire jump and dunk journey. So just a quick intro before I get into some videos and photos. I have been interested in athletics in general from a young age, from when I started playing sport. So started with soccer, played AFL, tennis, and then eventually got into basketball in year 5. Was always a sprinter at school and did really well in that. Never trained for it or anything, just was a kid doing stuff that I enjoyed. And then when I was in year, I think it was in year 9 at school, is when I first started to try and increase my vert for basketball. So I always remember trying to jump and touch the net and then touch a little bit higher up the net and kind of keep working my way up like that, and then touch the backboard. And it was about year 9-ish, year 8 or 9, I was touching like halfway up the net. And then that's when my friend got me onto my first jump program, which was the Jump Manual by Jacob Hiller. And with that I went from touching halfway up the net to grabbing the rim, which was super cool. And I ran that program 2 or 3 times, just did it at home, from about the ages of, probably like 13 to 15, maybe, whatever year that is at school. I can't remember the exact dates. So besides running that program, I guess the only jump training I was doing was just playing lots of basketball and constantly trying to jump and touch the rim and grab the rim and whatnot. So I never consciously knew I was doing jump training then. But yeah, so once I could touch the rim and grab the rim, was when I started to try and get dunks. And it was in year 11, so when I was 16, that I got my first dunk, just, little rim grazer. Yeah, so 16 was when I got my first dunk. But kind of throughout the whole period, like, I wouldn't say I was overly obsessed with trying to get a dunk. I really enjoyed just jumping high in general. Like, one of my favorite things to do was block shots. And that's actually why I did that first jump program, was because I wanted to be able to jump high to block people's shots, like chase down blocks or anything like that. I found that a lot of fun. Just that feeling of flying up in the air, really. So from the ages of 16 to 18, it was just a lot of playing basketball. I joined the gym when I was 15, and I was kind of doing, I was still doing jump training stuff just from what I learned online and just kind of writing my own stuff. But yeah, from 16 to 18, it was a bit more like just bodybuilding stuff, I guess, physique stuff with a little bit of jump training here and there. And then from the age of 18 to 21, I was still gymming, but I was trying lots of all different training modalities. So, bit of bodybuilding training, powerlifting, just trying to learn as much as I could of all types of training. So and I would do like little bits of jump training here and there that I'd write for myself. But I wasn't doing a lot of jump training stuff. I also went through like a little bit of a party phase, so wasn't like making the most progress during that time, and I wasn't the most committed at that time. But was still like training a fair amount. And then from 21 to 22, I started to get back into jump training again and was writing my own stuff. And so before that, I was getting about here to the rim. And then after that period, after that year, I was kind of getting a little bit more down to here. But I wasn't really doing like jump or dunk sessions. It was always just training in the gym to jump higher, which, looking back at that now was a bit silly. But all the jump manual and stuff. And I also did in that period, from Overtime Athletes, I think it was called like triphasic training or something like that to jump higher, but none of them had like jump days or dunk sessions or anything like that. It was just weight room stuff, and then you'd test your vert after. And then it was 2019. So when I was 22, that I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna get full into jump training. So at that point I had I only really watched, like, I used to watch lots of like Team Flight Brothers and all that, like Air Up There and Golden Child and whatnot, dunk mixtapes and stuff online, but I was never really part of the dunk community or anything like that. And I had just recently found a whole bunch of accounts online and started getting myself into that. And that's when I messaged Isaiah, because he had just started offering jump training. And he was kind of one of the first like pro dunkers I properly started following. And so he had just started offering jump training. I actually ended up being his first online client. And yeah, signed up with him. Then eventually he merged with John Evans and they made THP. And I did that for, I think, 3 or 4 years. And that period is when I made the most progress. Like, that's when I had fully committed to it, got a proper coach for it. And yeah, that brings us up to, we're going to go from 2019. So these next clips you're going to see are a few clips just before I joined THP and then from THP onwards. So here's me early 2019 doing a bit of a jump test session. And I was taking my friend through one at this time as well. So I was just kind of seeing where my jumping was at after doing some training myself, like writing a few workouts and whatnot for myself, whilst also doing a little bit of technique work. So I had just started to a little bit look into Project Pure Athlete here. So I was starting to just work on that penultimate a little bit, same as here. So I think one of these is actually the video I sent to Tyler Ray that he kind of critiqued. But yeah, so that kind of lines up to me touching like about an inch or two, maybe 3 inches just below my wrist. And there's a height check on that rim as well. So now this is just before I signed up with THP, so just before I decided to go all in on my jump training. So as you can see, I could do some nice like one-hand dunks. I didn't know how to hold the ball properly here either, but could get some nice little rim grazes on regulation 10-foot rims. So this is just after a couple of months with THP. And as you can see, that's 10-foot rim. I've already gained probably about an inch or two there. I'm starting to work my way down the forearm. And then this is where I was testing my vert in September. So I would attach a ruler onto the top of the rim with a little chopstick out and kind of made my own at-home Vertec. There is a slight slant on the floor, so it could be 1 or 2 inches off. So it ended up measuring in at roughly 10-10, so give or take for that slant, which puts me to 34-inch vert, and about 2 inches gain total since on THP. So these are some clips of when I had started doing consistent dunk sessions. I had been able to start hitting off the lobs more. It's kind of the main thing I was practicing. So I could hit off the lob with one hand, off the lob with 2 hands, some little like self-bounce dunks like this. I'd also start hitting some off the backboards as well. So now here's where I decided to go all in on my jump technique, and I binged a whole lot of Project Pure Athlete Tyler Ray stuff, and started implementing some of the drills. And I also did his jump technique program, and I saw such an improvement on my jump doing this. Not only on my max jump, but on my consistency of jumping. I was able to actually keep each jump similar, because I had proper control of my technique. Whereas before I did used to kind of run and jump without any real control through that. So this was a big help. I definitely recommend working on your technique. Just like lifting, you got to work on your jump technique as well. So yeah, this made a massive difference, which you can see here on this jump. So almost touching close to the top of the square, couple inches off, I believe there, but pretty much elbow at just above the backboard really there. So now we move on to December, and this was my best dunk session to date. It was an outdoor session, and it was on a 910-ish rim, but it was also one of my most memorable because it was the first time dunking with other people. I hit lots of dunks here, but yeah, I dunked with Pablo, Isaiah, and Rahul. And yeah, this was just such a fun day. We had someone filming as well. It was the first time, I've ever done something like this. All the other times I was just dunking by myself. So this is like that session where I felt like I had really made a lot of progress. And this was a good height check here. Yeah, so I'll always remember this session. This was a lot of fun. So it was a pretty decent 2019 when it comes to increasing my vert. Started with THP about halfway through the year and made quite a bit of progress, not just on how high I could jump, but also just dunking in general. Before this, I'd only ever done just little one-handers. So now we're up to March 2020, fast forwarding a couple of months, and this is when my windmill journey started. So these are some clips throughout March, but my windmill journey kind of was a bit on and off for the next almost 2 years. I was would have some sessions of practicing it and then other sessions not practicing it, getting a bit disheartened, and a little bit back and forth of that. And yeah, that leads to here where I hit my first windmill. So from when I first started attempting windmills to hitting it, it was almost 2 years, probably like a year and 8-ish months. And now these clips that are playing here are just some of the windmills that I've hit ever since then. Those ones you just saw were 3 in a row that I had at a session, which was pretty damn cool. This one here is one of my cleanest. And then this one coming up was my first self-bounce windmill. And then here's another one that I hit, a bit cleaner. So at this point I'd hit so many new dunks, like more than I could name in terms of dunks that I'd never been able to hit before as part of being on THP, which I'm so grateful for. But we're going to fast forward to the end of my THP journey, where I finished off with an 11.2 max touch. So from Feb 2019 till July 2022, I gained about 6 inches of vert and went from hitting one-hand rim grazes to a whole bunch of different dunks. So after I went off THP, I started training myself. So I trained myself for the rest of that year, had quite a bit of time off over New Year's, and then slowly started building myself back up after that break, which leads us to March of 2023, when I had my highest jumping period of all time. So I touched 11.3, which you'll see in the next video, which is a 1 inch PR on my running approach. I touched 11.1 off just my penultimate step, and I had my highest height check of all time. So this is the 11.3 touch. I just nicked the marker, and then this is the height check. So this height check definitely put me over 40 inches, but it's hard to say how much. So that was March of 2023. After that, I went on holidays for 2 weeks. And then when I came back, I had a big blow up in my knees. I came back and I eased back into training, but just that one jump session caused them to really flare up quite a lot, like worse than they ever had. And then I spent the next couple of months kind of working in and out, like they'd get better, then they'd get worse, and they'd get better. So then I decided to spend the rest of the year just getting them as healthy as I could and making sure I didn't have any flare-ups. And then that brings us to now, the beginning of 2024. So I would say that at my peak, I probably got to about a 40-inch vert. Height checks definitely got over that. But currently working my way back up, and the goal for this year is to officially test over a 40-inch vert, and that's with a proper full reach, and hit an East Bay, which some of you may have seen the series that I've been doing. But yeah, so that's my jump journey so far. I hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys follow along for everything else that's yet to come. And yeah, I appreciate it if you made it this far.